Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another super cool Nerd Show toy review. Today, I will be looking at the brand new DC Multiverse Collect and Connect Ninja Batman Wave. So I gotta do those really big wide shots to take a look at it. And fun little stuff that's gonna go over. There's a lot I like about this wave. There's some things that I dislike, and there's just some things that I'm both happy yet disappointed at the same time. But let's go ahead, crack them open, take a look at what's inside. Alright, so now we got the whole wave opened, taking a look at. Like I said, there's a lot of good stuff that's going on here, a lot of iffy stuff, but ultimately it's Mattel. It's the stuff we've grown to know about. So we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at all of the accessories, then we're going to take a closer look at all of the figures themselves, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, this is a closer look at all of the accessories that came with all of the figures. So we'll go ahead and we'll start off with Starfire. Starfire just came with just these little blast effects. Pretty neat stuff. Pretty easy to use. All you got to do, because she didn't come with any alternate hands, you just kind of pop on through the circles. Not quite as good as the stuff we've gotten from Hasbro before, the kind of basic ones that we've had, but I mean, I think these look pretty nice. They've got some nice translucent green going through, pretty easy to see, pretty easy to use. Both hands are a little different, so you do have the option of being able to just stick your figure's hands through. Looks pretty good. I like them. As for any other characters, we've got good old stuff for John Stewart. So we have an extra fisted hand, and then of course we have this hand with the Green Lantern effect coming out of it, which looks pretty nice. It's got some green, got some other shades of green on top of it. Pretty easy to swap out as opposed to his normal hands that he's got going on here. So all you have to do is take it off, just pop those bad boys on, and there you have it. Now he's calling forth sheer will. So we'll go ahead and set those aside as well. When it comes to Wally, he's got these two lightning effect pieces. We've seen these before with, I believe, the 2-pack that came with Justice League, where it was the two different types of flashes. Pretty easy to use. They just go on. You can put them either on the hands, put them on the feet for the extra bit of lightning effects. Look pretty nice. Just standard silver. Nothing crazy. Nothing going on with them. Pretty flexible. They're soft plastics. Good to go. And then, of course, we get two running hands. Pretty easy, pretty simple. They've got some decent sculpt to them. There is no articulation inside of these hands at all, just to kind of point that out. So when they're in, and he's running. Pretty easy to swap them out. Just like anything else, just pop one off. Just grab the right hand that's supposed to go on the right, arm, and there you go. Pretty easy to use. Pretty good stuff. We'll go over those a little bit more later as well. When it comes to Nightwing, he comes with two sets of alternate hands. He's got some fisted hands, which are currently sitting on the figure itself. There you go. Pretty standard fisted hands. Then, of course, he's got these two gripping hands, which are to go with the nightsticks that, of course, he comes with. They're also pretty easy. You just slip them on in, and they're not coming out. They're in there. They're in there for good, but just like any other figure, just pops on. Pops right on off. And then for Black Lightning, we get 6 pairs. Well, I guess it's 3 pairs of alternate hands, but of 6 hands. There we go. We got this standard hands that I've got on him, where it kind of looks like a trigger figure hand, but obviously he's got no guns or anything to be held with those. So pretty standard stuff. Then we have the pair of fisted hands, nice sculpt. I really like the effect that's been going on throughout that figure, and we're going to talk about that here a little bit more as well. But ultimately, pretty good sculpt, pretty good paint. Got some extra little blue paint on the bottom of this one, so it looks like that was not supposed to be there, but I honestly thought it was on purpose at first. And then, of course, we've got 2 pairs of lightning hands, which look nothing like actual lightning to me. It looks more like the Mira effect that we've gotten with the DC Collectibles, not DC Collectibles, but the Mattel Multiverse Aquaman Mira, just with a little bit of extra paint on it. Looks like we've got little streaks of white, and of course we have this open hand. And unlike the Flash figure, we do have some hinges on these. So these look pretty good. Just like anything else, you just swap them off, pop it back on. And then other accessories that came with Ninja Batman are going to be 2 pairs of fisted hands. Nothing crazy there. And then on the actual Batman itself, what it comes with are 2 gripping hands, which are, of course, used to hold the sword, which is a pretty basic sword. It's got some nice sculpt right over here. Didn't really realize it until now, but it looks like right here along the sides are actually little bats, which is pretty neat as well. Taking a look on the back side, it's just a simple thing. It doesn't have anything to hold. you can just see the sword right there. And then, of course, taking out the sword, it's just a katana sword. You've got some pretty silver paint here. You've got some gold going around the handle. Of course, you've got a nice little katana blade here with some black and grays. Ultimately, it's nice. I actually think it looks a little better than some of the Hasbro swords we've gotten before. So, all in all, pretty good sword. But now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the boxes because we happen to have extra boxes. I'll get to that at the end of the video as well. So we'll take a look at each one of the boxes, and then we'll take a look at each one of the figures. We'll take a look at each individual articulation, and then we'll go from there. Starting out with Starfire, pretty good box. You've got a window right here looking into the figures and its accessories. Starfire coming, of course, with the head of Ninja Batman and the cape, which I'll go into a little bit cool feature about the cape as well. Get a look at the figure and everything that it comes with. You get this little promotional art of Starfire here. And then get it on the side. Of course, you get a look at Starfire going on over here. Let's see if we can take a look at the top here. A little bit of a bio going on. I can't get into the frame. Not going to worry about it right now. But then you get to see, of course, all of the figures that come in this wave, as well as Ninja Batman itself. On the other side, you get another view of Starfire. I'm going to bring the camera down a little bit more. There we go. And then, of course, at the bottom, we got Legalese, UPC, and on the top, just the DC varnish up at the top. So let's go ahead and crack it open, take a look at Starfire. Taking a look at Starfire, she looks pretty good in my opinion. The head for me feels like it's a little small, but because of the hair, that could be just because of how big the hair is. But ultimately, I do think the head looks a little small, but the paint apps look good. On there, we've got some nice orange. You've got nice detail in the face. You get to see the green eyes. The camera will focus. You can kind of see the eyes as well. There we go. Nice looking face. And then, of course, taking a look at the rest of the figure. We've got this purple going on throughout the bodysuit. Pretty steady. Looks the same. It's a little shinier on the torso than it is on the rest of the actual figure itself. And then, of course, you've got little bits of silver throughout the figure. A little bit of misaligned paint when it comes to some of the parts. Example, right around here. You can see that it's broken up by the seam line here. But ultimately, it looks pretty good. Got a little bit of paint splash on mine right here at the knee. And then, of course, got some at the heel. Looks pretty good. And then, of course, on the back, can't see too much of the back of the figure, but you do have your copyright legalese written on her back, but it's covered up by the hair. Starfire butt. But ultimately, I think it's really good. I like the hair on it as well. You've got a translucent plastic giving you a different fade, and then they just put paint up at the top to kind of give you that fade. So ultimately, I think the figure looks really good. I think it's probably one of the better female figures that I've seen. Taking a look at articulation for Starfire, head doesn't really go down that far because, I mean, it's a DC figure, and with the giant hair at the top, you don't really get any motion upward. Don't get a little bit of head tilt, but not a whole lot. Arm goes up pretty far, actually. Pretty good. Does go 360, but it gets caught a little bit by the hair. There is a single jointed elbow, only goes up about that far, so not quite 90. And then, of course, there is a hinge at the wrist. Looks pretty good. Does swivel there as well. When it comes to ab crunch, she does get a decent amount forward. I think that's pretty good. Doesn't get much back because of the hair getting caught on the actual figure itself. Does a little bit of good kick. Not much back, actually any at all, because of the way that the figure is sculpted. Do get double jointed knees. Doesn't quite go all the way because of the way that the sculpt is. That's just hitting right here. And then you take a look at the leg. Does point forward. Does go all the way back. And of course, there are some ankle rockers. Up next, we're looking at Wally West, Kid Flash, going over the entire review of the lot. Same thing with any of the other packaging that you have. Got a nice window up at the front. Got a little promotional picture of Wally on the front as well. Get to take a look at all the accessories that come with it. Wally comes with an alternate hand for Ninja Batman, and as well as he comes with, I believe that is the right arm, left arm. I can't tell the difference between left and right. Up at the top, like I said, DC varnish. Bottom, legalese, UPC code. More picture of Wally on the side. Picture of Wally up at the top, along with a little bio. Not going to show you the bio, no big deal. All the figures, Ninja Batman, and then, of course, more promotional shots of Wally's promotional image. Let's take a look at the figure. Let's take a look. I know that last bit wasn't a word, but we're moving on. Taking a look at Wally, looks pretty good. Head feels a little too big. There's not any shading when it comes to the top of the hair, but it's not gonna focus on his face. Nope, not gonna focus. So we're gonna go a little bit further out. Taking a look at Wally, he's got a decent sculpt to him. It's Mattel, so there's not gonna be a whole lot of, I guess you could say, accuracy there. Detail is the right word. But ultimately, it doesn't look that bad. You have some silver paints here up at the top. You got some nice red. You got a nice skin tone going. The eyes look nice. There's no shading in the hair, but there is a lot of sculpt going on there. Don't know if you can see that. And then, of course, it's plain red throughout the top part of the body with a darker red going down to the bottom until we get to the boots. We've got some silver going along. A little bit of a better paint application than there was with Starfire. A little bit of red, darker red down here on the side as well. The logo looks good. Really like that. Back of the figure. And of course, you've got your legalese written there. Got some Wally butt. Got a little bit of extra paint here. It just peeled right off, but it took a little bit of mine off as well, but no big deal. So now we're going to go into Wally articulation. Head goes nowhere, really. Has a little bit of down, but definitely no up. And there's no side to side. There's a little bit, but not enough. Looking at the arm, it does go up about that high. You do have the giant DC Mattel armpit thing going on here, shoulder. You do have some good old bicep swivel. Single jointed elbow really only gets you about that high, but when you're doing a running pose, I guess that's really all you need to do. Like I said, with some of the other hands, you do... Oh, look at that. You actually don't have any wiggle there either. I guess you could take a look at that. There's just a peg, so it really doesn't move either. I don't know if it's going to actually zoom in on that. Nope, not going to. But it doesn't actually have a hinge there either. That's okay, I guess. Does get to go that far forward. Not much back. There is a waist swivel. Does kick out about that far. There is a bicep swivel. Double jointed knees, but it doesn't go that far back. And then, of course, he can kick back for a running pose. Does go just a little bit forward, but not much. And then, of course, there is ankle rockers. Beast Boy's up next. Taking a look at the packaging. Just the same thing as we've got before. Front of the picture of the figure. The top parts, of course, got the varnish for the DC. And then, of course, you got the UPC code and stuff at the back. Promotional art on the side. Promotional art on the side. Then, of course, you've got the pieces over here. Beast Boy coming with the sword itself and one of the arms for Ninja Batman. Let's take a look at it next. There we are. We have Beast Boy out of the packaging. We're going to take a little bit of zoom on him. Looks good overall. That's bad. There we go. Looks pretty good. Face sculpt looks really nice. I really do like the Beast Boy figure. I just wish it came with some additional accessories. Maybe like an additional piece to have, I guess, like a bird. Almost use the Vixen bird, but instead of that we got before, but turn it into the same green. So that way we had some kind of version of Beast Boy turning into an animal. Let's zoom back out. Take a closer look at the figure. You've got this dark green for the hair, which looks pretty good. There's not a whole lot of sculpted detail. It's not going to want to show you now, but not a whole lot of sculpted detail. Ultimately, the face does look good. He's got very animalistic eyes. Kind of show you a little bit. Come on. There we go. He's got a nice childish smile. He's got definitely got some sideburns here. Got pointed ears. Looks great when it comes to the actual face itself. And then we're taking a look at the rest of the body. Definitely has some good sculpt work. I really like the paint applications that they did here. The white isn't really bleeding. You can't really see too much red as it bleeds through. Same thing on the back. Does have a little bit of paint problems when we got over here, but nothing too big. Of course, you've got that green going throughout. You've got nice red and whites going onto the gloves. Going down to the thighs. Same thing. A little bit of paint right over here, right on the hip. No big deal. Going all the way down, you've got red, got a little bit of white. Then, of course, we've got some good extra little bit of sculpt here for the actual bits of fur that come off of him. Then you've got some green painted sharp toenails. He does have painted fingernails as well, but I don't think it's going to pick up on the camera, but they are painted green. Ultimately looks pretty good. Beast Boy has some decent articulation, nothing too great. It doesn't go up too high because of the collar itself, but it's also just the peg. It's not going to go up or hindered or anything. It's just the peg. Does get a little bit of down, but mine wants to kick back up. As you can see, Doesn't have any head swivel at all, in my opinion. Do get some pretty up motion when it comes to there. They changed out the ball joint that they've been using, so it's not this giant ball joint, shoulder joint that they've been using. This is not going to focus, but whatever. You get the idea. Does have some bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, but it does not go up very far. And then there is some articulation here in the wrists. That way you can kind of get some good animalistic poses. That actually goes up pretty good. I'm actually really impressed with that. Torso joint goes just that far forward. Not a whole lot of back. There is some waist swivel. Kicks up about that far. Do have a bicep swivel right here. Double jointed knees. And then of course you have kick forward here. You can see a little bit of red paint as you kick a little bit forward. Then of course, I know it's all blurry, you have to bear with me. Goes a little bit just like that. There's actually a little bit of sculpt in the design right here in the foot. It's actually kind of nice. And of course it does have ankle rockers. Taking a look at Nightwing next. Same old packaging, sees everything that it comes with. You do get a leg when it comes to Ninja Batman on Nightwing. You get promotional shot right here, promotional shot on the side, everything that you've seen before, promotional shot, varnish, UPC. Let's open him up. Taking a look at Nightwing here, he's got some QC issues just like everybody else, mainly going to be with the shoulder joints. Let's take a closer look at it. So there we've got some pretty good face sculpt going on, if it'll actually focus. There we go. Pretty nice. I like it. It definitely does look like Dick Grayson. Of course, here on the hair, you're going to have some blue wash. So I actually do dig the blue wash going on over here. The mask is painted really well. It does have a little bit of a shine on the mask as opposed to the rest of the face, so it does kind of stand out a little bit. I did have in mind some weird stuff going on. It looks like they packed in some glue in his ear, so I guess he's having some trouble hearing that day. But this ear is clean, so he's going to be fine over there. Looking at the rest of it, the blue also has some shine going on to the actual symbol itself. I have this weird little speck in the corner, but like I said, no big deal. That kind of stuff doesn't usually bother me. And then you have good old legalese here at the bottom. Looking at the wrist, there is this shade of like navy inside of the gauntlet going on here, which I guess is pretty cool. And then I've got some shiny black for the glove, and it is a different black than the rest of the sculpt here. It's actually the only part of it that's far black, but that's okay. Got some good paint when it comes to the fisted hands. Same thing with the other hands. I don't know if I showed you too much on these, but it's got some blue paint on the inside. Same color black. Good on the knuckles. Good on the inside of the sculpt. Going down the rest of the figure, pretty plain. Got some black, nice blue here. Don't know what's going on with this little section here, but like I said, no big deal. And then, of course, it's just stark black for the rest of it. Going on to articulation, you do have no head up movement. Does go a little down, but I wouldn't say it's too much. No side to side. Can lift the arm about that much. Do have a bit of a bicep swivel. Like I said, you have that weird shoulder piece going on there, so I don't know what's going on with that. Does have single jointed elbows. Focus there. There we go. Only goes up about that far. Does have some wrist swivel when it comes to both, which is pretty good. Does actually have a pretty good ab crunch. Doesn't go too far back. And we have some good old waist swivel here. Does kick pretty decent amount. Nothing crazy though. It's a DC figure, so it's about what you expect. Does have a thigh swivel. Double jointed knees, but just like anything else, it doesn't actually go as far as it should. And then of course you have a little bit of front, a little bit of back, and you've got some ankle rocker. Up next, we're taking a look at the John Stewart figure. God, we're almost there. Reviewing the lot. Setting this back down. Same window. Got the figure. Got the accessories. You have the actual, I guess, the torso piece for the Ninja Batman Wave. Got some nice picture art going on here. Got the DC logo, Multiverse. UPC at the bottom. More of the promotional shot on the side. Of course, more of the actual figure itself. Well, figures themselves and more promotional art. One more promotional art up the side. Take a look at the rest of the figure. We're going to pop it open. Take a look. And here we go. We got John Stewart out of the package. Looking pretty good. The paint apps look fine. I actually think it has a decent head sculpt on it. Looks kind of meh, kind of bland, but I actually don't think it's that bad. The weird part about it is going to be the hair at the back. So here at the top, we actually noticed it on, I believe it was alternate heads on our newest episode. So we'll take a look at the face sculpt first, though. There we go. Pretty clean face. He's got a bigger nose, got some pretty decent eyes. Like I said, he's just kind of looking at you, judging at you slowly. We have a nice actual hair sculpt here with a nice looking fade. Clearly he's got that shaved cut. But then when you go all the way around, the brown starts to go higher and higher up. So you can clearly see where they were going to keep the actual paint going right here, and then it just didn't. So he's got some balding happening in the back. You know, the ears have not been nice on Jon Stewart, but I mean, his face looks fine. If you want to keep him forward, that's great. Don't have to worry about the bald spots happening in the back. Taking a look at the rest of the figure, does have a little bit of shine going on the greens. Let's see if we can focus. There we go. A little bit of shine's going on the green. Green Lantern symbol looking great. Got some plain blacks going through the rest of the figure. Green right over here. Nothing too bad. Got some good stuff going on here. This is the Green Lantern effect ring that we have on it right now. Plain blacks all the way down to the boot until it becomes green again. Taking a look at articulation, pretty standard stuff as we've seen before. Doesn't really have any up, doesn't really have any down. There is no side to side. And then he's got the giant shoulder piece that we've always seen before. Goes up about that far. And then if you take a look at this, does have a bicep swivel. Single jointed elbow only goes up about that far, but there is some wrist articulation going on, swivel, and of course the hinge. Doesn't look too far forward, just about the same as the other figures before, which means that he has no back, but does have some waist swivel going on here. A lot of kick forward, pretty decent. Bicep swivel going on. Double jointed knees, but once again, doesn't go all the way back. Does allow him to go a little bit forward with the foot. Not a whole lot going on with the other side. And then, of course, there are ankle rockers now. Up next, we're looking at Black Lightning. We've got some same thing that we have. DC varnish up the top. Picture of the actual actor from the show on the side. DC logo. Shows everything that it comes with. Of course, you've got the actual Black Lightning figure. All of the accessories in the package. Then, of course, she comes with another leg. Another picture of the actual Black Lightning, as well as his actual logo from the show. On the back, same thing. This is clearly the lightning effect that they were trying to duplicate, but it just doesn't come across the same way. This looks really cool. Once again, you can kind of see they were reusing the mirror stuff, but whatever. More picture of him on the side, and then of course we've got the UPC code upside down once again. No big deal. Let's pop this thing open. And here's Black Lightning out of the package, looking well. Get a little bit of close on that face sculpt. Go ahead and take a look at that. And focus. No. Well, doesn't want to focus, so we'll go ahead and take a look at it from this distance. There's not a lot of paint going on here. There is some paint going on the side, which has this nice effect going on throughout the visor, but the visor is just plain black. Do have this little bit of white paint that I think I can get off later on its own. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. But the hair is a little bit more consistent, unlike Jon Stewart. You have some hair going on through the top, all the way down to the neck, connecting to the beard. Pretty plain sculpt. Overall, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know if this is too much like the actor's likeness, other than just taking a look at the box, which you can kind of see. This is pretty simple in comparison to this, but I mean, what you gonna do? Taking a look at the rest of the figure, this has the most detail I think I've seen in a while. These are pretty much just printed on for the lightning effect, and I have a little bit of nick in mine, but I mean, shouldn't be any other issue when it comes to the other one, so don't worry about that. But then you've got this yellow with some white effect. It's clearly a print on, which I mean, I think looks fine. Got this little piece right here towards the bottom, which I believe was once described to me as looking like almost like a retro TV in the belt. A little bit of static. Over on the arm, you can see that he's got some good old blue scattered throughout with the detail. They put in a lot of detail into this arm, which looks great. Kind of wish they had put those kind of details in the CW figures they made. The other ones like Supergirl and Flash and stuff like that, but I mean, what you gonna do? We're already past it. They've lost the license. I'm not getting a new one anytime soon. And over here on the sides, you've got some additional blue paint. Not a whole lot of other paint going on to the back. You've got some black lightning, but over here you get a little bit more of that blue paint. It's not as consistent on this side as it is over here on the back. Like I said, it's the back of the figure, so that's no big deal, but it looks better on the front. You got some more consistency, a little bit more symmetry going on over here. And of course, you've got some lightning symbols going on the side of the boots. And then you've got some blue at the bottom of the boots, as well as a little bit of blue right here. So looking good, looking good. On the hands, I forgot to mention that that blue goes right here, as well as whatever this is. Like I said, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know what's going on there. The figure looks ultimately really good. Going to articulation, you don't get a whole, you get a little bit more back, but it wants to fling it forward a little bit. Then you do get some decent tilt from the front. There is a little bit of head swivel, but I think that's just the peg overall and not the actual ability to swivel the head. And then, of course, since he has a completely different sculpt, new sculpt, no reuse here, does go up that high, but this little shoulder piece prevents it from going up any higher. Does have a bicep swivel, single jointed elbow, which only gets you about that much. And then, of course, there is articulation in the wrist. Does have a little bit of bend forward, better than most of the other figures. Doesn't have much back. Does have the ability to kick forward. I forgot to mention that there is a waist swivel. Doesn't kick too much forward. Gets a better kick in the back than most of the other ones. Does have double jointed knees, and that one has the best articulation for the double jointed knees that from the other figures so far, but still doesn't go too far forward or too far back. Of course, he does have the ability to kick forward, kick back. I guess you could swap those, but there is no ankle articulation here. Oh, wait, no, I lied to you. There is. It just looks weird because of the sculpt. All right, last one. We're almost there. This one's the Ninja Batman, and I have to say that this Ninja Batman is a phenomenal figure. I have not seen the movie personally, but the movie, so far from what I can tell, it looks pretty spot on to what we've seen in the movie. Has a pretty decent sculpt. The paint apps are great, and they've done a lot with the articulation here that I've liked, and I kind of wish that they had done more. We're going to talk more about that when we get into the actual articulation itself, but let's take a closer look. Ninja Batman himself. So if we can get a closer look on that face. Not going to want to do it now, but that's okay. Looking at the face, he's got some decent sculpt right here onto the mask. Over here, you've got some yellow on the eyes, so it's still white, but it's got a little bit of yellow. It's got some standard Batman snarl going on. It's a little bit of sculpt throughout the entirety of the mask. And then, of course, taking a look at the cape, it's got some good wrinkles all the way throughout. Got these little bit of tattered bits here. No big deal. It is made out of a softer plastic, so it's not going to really hinder too much going on. Taking a look at the front, this is sculpted really nice. It's done with a nice gray, almost like a bluish gray with some black and pieces of gold throughout. Ending on the arm, you've got some additional sculpt going on here. More gold. Got some more on the, I guess these would be pauldrons? No, gauntlets. I don't care. Got a little bit more here. And yeah, you can kind of see what they did with the articulation here, but we'll get into that still. Get some good old Ninja Batman hands, pretty good. Going to the belt, got some purple going on right here with the bat symbol. Still got the utility belt going on. It goes all the way to the back, where you just kind of see where he can tie it off. And then, of course, you've got this little skirt piece, which is made out of a very soft plastic, so it's not going to hinder articulation at all. Then you've got his baggy pants going on right here until we get all the way down to the shins. And then you've got his nice little ninja boots, which are sculpted really well with a little bit of bronze. You've got some gold. Ultimately, I think this has done a really good job. Taking a look at articulation, something that I wanted to point out was the head. The head actually did something different. So because of the way that I usually feel about capes, I have a mixed feeling about soft goods and cloth goods. I like cloth goods because you can do a little bit more with them, but at the same time, they don't always match what's happening with the figure. But then you get some capes, which, granted, this one's a very soft plastics, isn't going to really get in the way much, but I thought this was pretty cool. So you actually have this peg right here built in that I initially thought was for the Ninja Batman head, but it's actually not. It's for a extra little peg hole right here. And then the cape itself comes with a peg as well. So we're just getting that in. You just push down. This one was a little bit harder to get to, but it pushes right on down, holds this in place. And you just pop the Ninja Batman head on. That way you can kind of move the cape, still move it around, the head stays in place, and then of course you have the ability to move both at the same time. But looking at articulation, Batman gets some good range when it comes to looking up, good, not so much range when it comes to looking down, but a little bit better than some of the other ones. Because of the fact that it's on this extra peg, he does get some good side-to-side movement going on here. When it comes to the articulation on the rest of the figure, because of this new sculpt, he does have the ability to bring his arm pretty high up. The actual cape doesn't really get in the way because of how soft it is. It does have a bicep swivel. And for the first time, he's got double jointed elbows, which allows him to have excellent range when it comes to having, compared to any Mattel figure. They actually have this piece right here as a separate piece attached to this, so it doesn't get into the way of the actual gauntlet itself when it hits the elbow. So it actually just kind of slides on in, which has been phenomenal. Of course, he does have some wrist motion. I will say that I wish that on these open-handed wrists that he had the actual articulation on the side, because I feel like most characters, especially when you have any kind of weapon, should always have an up and down swivel instead of side to side. Then, of course, you have the actual torso joint here. So he's got a little bit of an ab crunch, not much. Doesn't really have much back. Does have a waist right here, waist articulation. And then, of course, he does get some pretty good kick up. These being soft plastic do get out of the way. Does have a really good bicep swivel. Double jointed knees. Doesn't go too far back, but better than I've seen with most. Kick forward on the foot. Kick back. And does have ankle rockers. Measuring out these figures one by one, we have Starfire here. You can see that she is just a little bit over 6.5 inches tall. Taking a look at John Stewart's height, you can see that he is also a little bit over 6 inches tall. Taking a look at Black Lightning, also over 6.5 inches tall. Getting tired here. Taking a look at Wally, he is, I want to say the shortest of the bunch, but still just a little over 6.5 inches tall. Looking at Nightwing here, also over 6.5 inches tall. Like Nightwing fall over like that makes him look like I feel. Beast Boy looks like he's the shortest, just a smidge over 6.5 inches tall, which makes sense since he would be a teenager. And of course, we've got Ninja Batman here, ranging over 7 inches, almost 7.5 inches tall. So overall, guys, I actually don't think this was a bad wave. Mattel actually did a pretty decent job with one of their final waves that's going through. Like I said, there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. The shoulder pieces aren't always fixed. The camera's wobbling a little bit, but it'll be okay. But ultimately, I really like the Black Lightning figure. I really like the Beast Boy figure. Starfire looks pretty great. Jon Stewart looking great. Wally looking pretty okay. Nightwing looking decent. And Ninja Batman being phenomenal. Just kind of wish they had kept this up with some previous waves before, but I mean, hey, what you gonna do? They've already lost their license at the end of the year, so they're spouting off these figures like no big deal. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Just wanna get in real close on Ninja Batman here so I can make this special announcement. So if you guys have watched the newest episode of Alternate Heads, the reason why we have all of these extra boxes is because we are doing a contest for Alternate Heads. We are giving away the entire Ninja Batman wave, so if you really liked this wave, you like this review, you're going to want to go check out Alternate Heads for the contest rules. I will also be making an Instagram video on it to explain the contest rules there as well. But basically the gist of it is, you need to go to our newest episode of Alternate Heads where we talk about these figures. Got to make sure you are subscribed to the channel, leave a like on that video, and leave a comment with your Instagram or Twitter name. And then you have to follow us on one of our other social media accounts. The name that you put in there, we got to make sure that that particular name is following one of those accounts. You get your name entered into a drawing to win this entire wave. It's pretty neat, pretty simple, pretty easy, but you also have the opportunity of getting a second name, or your name put in a second time, if on that social media page you actually make a post about, either these figures, but preferably about us, and you give us a shout out. And once you do that, we're able to put your name in a second time. That contest will be running until, I believe, the next episode of Alternate Heads comes out, in which we will all announce the winner. And I hope you like the review. I hope you like the figures. Go ahead and make sure you follow those contest rules so you can win a set of your own. Make sure you are subscribed to Super Cool Nerd Show Live on YouTube. Make sure you watch Alternate Heads and all of the other shows that are coming out. You can feel free to follow us on our individual Instagrams, but that'll be all in those episodes as well. Hope you like the review. Ultimately, just keep on watching, and we'll see you next time.